Hello, everyone, and welcome inside the War Room alongside Chris Shroyer. I'm Srikar, Rajendran. Still on the tailspin of UFC 317, and in the fallout, we got some big news, which we're going to lead off with off the top here before we go into what you're here for. We're going to matchmake the lightweight division. But right off the bat, Ilia Topuria is the new pound-for-pound #1 fighter over Islam Makhachev, who held that pound-for-pound #1 spot for over 600 days, I believe. So a long time, and now we have a new guy at the top and the king of the UFC. Chris, any early thoughts? Like, what do you think? Does Islam deserve to be bumped down to 2? Is it deserving for Ilia? What do you think?
You know what? It's kind of interesting to look at because I can see both sides of it. Like, I can see Ilia being bumped up because obviously, like we said, like you said before, Srikar, on the last podcast, Ilia is on honestly the best 3-fight win streak in MMA history, and that's, undeniable. The things that he has done, the people that he's beat, and the route he's taken to the title, just to the featherweight title and now to the lightweight title, is absolutely amazing and really shows his talent as a UFC fighter, and a superstar for many years to come.
Mhm.
But when I initially saw that, I felt a little bit, kind of upset for Islam because he really didn't do anything to lose that #1 spot. That's why I said I can kind of see both ways. Like, I feel like Ilia deserves it, but Islam didn't deserve to get moved down. It was almost a matter of fact of who deserved it more in the time period that they were in. I think that personally, right now, Ilia does deserve to be the #1, but that's why in the future, we're going to see Islam versus Ilia, and we're going to see who really is the #1 pound for pound in the world. And a little bit more on the pound for pound rankings. Alexandre Pantoja finally in the top 5.
Yep.
We love to see it 100%. I honestly think that he should be above Dricus Duplessis.
Mhm.
And that's no knock on Dricus. He's an amazing fighter too. I just think that Alexandre has just done a little bit more with his title run. And, Dricus is still a little fresh in the championship game, only 2 defenses. Granted, they were, pretty dominant defenses. However, Alexandre has shown that he's that guy. And I think that, putting him in the top 5 is a step in the right direction, but he should be at #4 right under Merab. What do you think, Srikar?
Yeah, I think Pantoja, he's lapped his whole division except for that man coming up, Joshua Van. But
Ooh, the fearless.
But Dricus Duplessis fights Khamzat Chimaev at UFC 319. Obviously, after that, he could either push into that top 3 or drop out of the top 5 entirely as Khamzat pushes up even further. But I think it should be Ilia at 1. I was actually disagreeing with that placement at first because I agree with you, man. Like, I think Islam has not done anything to warrant losing the #1 spot, but inactivity does kind of matter in that regard.
I agree.
It doesn't matter for John Jones, but it does matter for Islam. But
love the little John Jones shot in there,
even as he's retired. But Ilia should be pound for pound #1 just because this is the greatest 3-fight run in MMA history. I mentioned it on the last episode, which you should go check out if you haven't already. Our whole UFC 317 recap. I basically broke down my experience there. It was great. But Ilia, we look at it, knocked out Volk in 2 rounds, knocked out Holloway, the first guy to do it, in 3 rounds. And then he just flatlines Oliveira in round 1. Like, I'd put him pound for pound #1 off.
Yeah. And he didn't even knock out Volk and Max. He did the same thing he did to Oliveira. He damn near flatlined them. And you know what? Now that we're evaluating who Ilia has beaten, how they've beaten him, let's give some credit to Josh Emmett for not getting knocked out by Ilia Topuria. That's insane now that we're looking at all this.
Like, he also got 50-42'd. Like,
okay, yes, there was a 10-7 round in there, but that speaks to his grit and toughness and shows that he is an absolute warrior in that cage. I won't lie to
you. I think Max Holloway put up a better performance than Josh Emmett, personally.
Yes, but the end result was not matter.
But Holloway actually took rounds on Topuria and actually made him deep for that knockout.
Okay, I agree with that.
Knocking around Josh Emmett like a punching bag for 25.
Yeah, he was. But
so
yeah,
when it comes down to it, pound for pound #1 and pound for pound #2, Ilia and Islam. Obviously, these two have been kind of I guess skirting around each other in the sense that they could be fighting eventually. Hopefully in 2026, fingers crossed, it would be the biggest fight in modern MMA history.
Oh, definitely.
I think my early thoughts on that fight, I I honestly think Ilia wins. I think Ilia does beat Islam. And this is something I never really came to until I saw Ilia knock out Charles Oliveira. But when we look at that Oliveira fight, I mean, he was passing guard on the most dangerous submission artist at lightweight. And obviously, he's going up against a Sambo fighter, so it's a little different in the sense that
Right.
he's going to be pressed up against the fence a lot more. He's going to have to work out of clinch situations because Islam knows better than to just stand and strike with him. Uh, and even with Khabib in his corner, Khabib's going to be screaming at him, just wrestle, wrestle. So he's going to be wrestling. But I just think Ilia will either clip him on the feet or he'll just keep scrambling on the ground. Like, I think he's good. Like, he's good on the ground, man. Like, that's one thing. His ground game is so underrated. We just haven't had to see it. Excuse me. We haven't had to see it just yet because he's just knocking guys out. And we saw it in that Oliveira fight. Like, obviously, he got caught up in that leg entanglement, but I do think that he was passing guard well. He was moving well with Charles on the ground. He got into crucifix, which is crazy. I don't think that's happened to Charles in a while.
Oh my God. No, I honestly, ever.
Yeah, ever. And I think for a guy to do that as a boxer right now, it's pretty crazy. So I think that fight is definitely 50-50, but I lean ever so slightly towards Ilia Topuria. I think he actually beats Islam Makhachev and cements himself as pound for pound number one. But obviously, we want to know there's multiple factors at play here. You know, obviously, Islam has to beat JDM to hype up that fight even more, because if he loses to JDM, I don't even think this Topuria fight's going to happen, because I don't think Ilia is going to have any, or Islam would have no leverage in that situation. Ilia would gain all the leverage because he's the champion.
I like how you just kind of prefaced that for me, because I was just going to say, you know, we're talking about Islam versus Ilia, and I think regardless of what happens in the JDM fight, I believe that this fight will happen just because of, you know, Islam's dominance in the lightweight division, and he did relinquish the belt. He never lost it. So I think that that's something that he can kind of hang on to, and that will be intriguing for, you know, the UFC and fans. But I was telling this to you before, Srikar, I don't really think that it's a cakewalk for Islam to beat JDM, especially after the performance we saw from JDM in his last fight. He has just been getting better and better every single time we see him in the cage against one of the best wrestlers in the UFC, Belal Muhammad. In what was it? I believe it was May. In May, it was Montreal. Was it Montreal? Was that card in Montreal? Yes, the Montreal card. And we saw levels to JDM's game, and I think, you know, part of why he won, I don't necessarily think that Belal had the correct game plan going in. I think he started wrestling a little bit too late, and JDM was already tagging him on the feet. But when he was shooting those shots, we saw a immaculate takedown defense from Jack Della. Something that I didn't really think that he had in his bag. And I honestly thought that that would be his downfall when he fought these top tier grapplers. And, you know, even Belal training with Khabib, training with the Dagestani guys and all the great grapplers in the world, JDM kind of made it look like a piece of cake. And that's something that's sitting in the back of my head. Cause I mean, Islam, he's a little susceptible when it comes to striking. You can get to him. We've seen it before. We saw it with Volk.
Fight.
Yes, exactly. That too. And I just think that this is not going to be a cakewalk. And it's going to be really hard to evaluate what actually is going to happen. And we'll do that when it gets closer to the card. But my early prediction is I will not be shocked if Jack Della beats Islam Makhachev.
Me too. I think he could either starch him on the feet or he could drag it out to a decision and win. Because one thing we actually didn't mention, he has 5-round cardio. And I'd argue he actually has better cardio than Islam. Islam actually withered down the stretch in that Volk fight. JDM only got better as the rounds went on against Belal. Now, obviously, those are two completely different fights, and Volk was kind of keeping it on the feet for the most part. But I do agree that Belal decided to wrestle late, but I mean, he still shot some takedowns early on. They just weren't working. And also the way that JDM is built and his frame and his size, like, it's really hard to take him down in general. Like, he looks like a lanky guy, but it's hard to just shoot a double leg on this guy. Like, it's hard.
Yeah,
And
he's
especially as
stocky.
Islam makes that move up, like you don't even know what the size difference will look like. We don't know how he's going to bulk. We don't know how it's going to look like. So I think it's an interesting matchup. And even I think if Ilia decides to move up to 170, I think JDM is a tough matchup there too, because he is probably, I mean, I don't want to say the only guy that can box with Ilia, because I remember we kind of said Holloway would be the guy to strike with Ilia.
Yeah, we
But
saw how that turned
in
out.
terms of pure boxing, like JDM can really hang in there with him. Now, will I pick him to win? I don't think so, but I think he has the best chance of probably anyone in the UFC right now, not named Islam Makhachev, to beat Ilia Topuria. Like
Definitely.
I think when we look at it, he just has the tools, man. Like he has the tools, and even in his own division, like I think he beats Shavkat. I think he beats
Yeah,
Kamaru.
I
We
do too.
talked about that in a prior episode as well. I think you can go to right after Kamaru Usman beat Buckley. But we
Yes.
said Kamaru would lose to JDM. I think JDM beats Gary. I think he beats Brady. I literally think he beats everyone at welterweight. Like Islam would probably be his toughest test, and if he gets past Islam, like who's going to beat this guy? He beats the pound for pound number 2 guy now, but a former pound for pound number 1. Man, this guy would be looking scary, and he would fly up those pound for pound rankings in his own right.
Definitely. I think Jack Della, he's just so raw. He's so talented. And he's like I said, he's just getting better every single time we see him step into the octagon, which is scary because it's almost like Ilia. Their trajectories are just trending upward every single time. And right when you think that they've hit their peak, or I don't know if he can top what he just did, they go out there and top it. And it's just their resumes are stacking up tremendously too. And I think, if we're going to preface the a potential Ilia versus JDM fight, I honestly don't know if moving up to 170 would be in Ilia's best interest, not because he's not good enough, just because he is, even on the smaller side in terms of height and reach for lightweight. I think that, once you cross that threshold into fighting bigger guys, size does matter and size can win you fights. But, I mean, we've seen Ilia do everything right now. Honestly, if you told me that he beat JDM, I would say, yep, I believe you 100%.
We can't doubt him anymore. Like
100%. There are no doubts being thrown around with both of these guys. But I think that Ilia, right now, I think he's in a very good spot for himself. And that, it's just hard when you move up in weight class. Obviously, featherweight to lightweight isn't that big of a difference, but Ilia fighting technically from featherweight to now, if he did do welterweight, that is a huge jump because you have people in welterweight that are 6'3", 6'4",
like huge guys. Yeah.
Yes, just absolutely massive human beings. And obviously, Ilia has some of the best skills in the UFC, and probably he might be more a talented fighter than all of them. But sometimes physicality and just physical attributes is what can win you a fight. But a little bit back to the Islam and JDM fight. I just want to talk about that a little more. I think that JDM's boxing is just so good. Like you said, it's so crisp and sharp and powerful. It's just like Ilia's. And for Islam, when you're wrestling a bunch and you're kind of approaching a fight with a cardio heavy game plan, Jack is so good at digging shots to the body and just ripping shots when you least expect it, when you're tired in the clinch. And you know what? I think that's what, Volk could have done a little bit better in his fight. Not saying he didn't have a good striking game plan against Islam, because he did. And he almost won that fight. Extremely close fight. But I think just the power of Jack Della is what will put that over the edge. And I think that it's going to be so interesting, man. I would really love to see it. And this will be a great spot for Islam to say, hey, he'll prove to everyone I did not deserve to be taken off number 1 pound for pound. And I think that, going back and looking back on just the timeline of everything, I really think Arman pulling out of that fight, and now that we know he pulled out because he missed weight, it wasn't a back injury. I think Arman actually pulling out of that fight kind of hurt Islam's stock in the pound for pound rankings, because he dominated Moicano, but that wasn't the fight. And if he made a statement against Arman, I think that, no matter what Ilia did, even though we knew he was going to do something crazy, I think that no matter what Ilia did, Islam would have just solidified himself at the top. But regardless of the Islam JDM fight, I still think that Ilia Islam is a definite. And, I think we'll see that hopefully, early next year. I would like to see that early next year.
I would even say like late next year. I think a lot of things have to go in the right direction for that fight to happen.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Because Ilia's going to fight in December. So that wouldn't make sense.
And actually, it's a good segue into what we're going to talk about next, because Ilia Topuria is the new king of the lightweight division. And we kind of want to just line up the lightweight division and matchmake the entire top 15 here. If you guys like this style of video, make sure you let us know, because it's something that we're doing. You're in the war room for a reason. We matchmake. So some of these fights, honestly, like I look at them, I think they practically book themselves. And the others, I guess, I would say like they're more about entertainment than like who actually deserves what. So let's go ahead and just start off with Topuria. I think Ilia Topuria is going to fight Paddy Pimblett. I think that's going to be his first title defense at 155. And this one's all about star power, man. Like two undefeated young guns in the UFC, both with massive fan bases in Europe and really across the globe. I think this is the kind of matchup that the UFC dreams about. Like, has Paddy on a technical level earned this fight? No. Like, he's the 10th ranked contender coming off a win over Michael Chandler, right? But does the UFC care about who technically earns what fight? No, they don't. Like, they're going to sell out an arena off of this fight. They will set pay-per-view records. If they set up this fight, like, I think it'll be one of the biggest lightweight fights in history, to be honest. Like, I think it would be a huge, huge moment, a huge opportunity for Paddy, obviously, but a huge chance for Topuria to even bolster his claim further, as a star. So I think this is going to be the next title fight. And the fact that they brought Paddy into the cage, it only solidifies that even further. I think Topuria versus Paddy's next.
Yeah, and I know Dana wasn't happy that they brought him into the cage. I think that was a little premature. I mean, I don't know what his plans are for him and Hunter Campbell and everyone and Sean Shelby. I don't know what their plans are for Ilia Topuria's next fight, but I think that would definitely be a good fight. I know there's a little bit of commotion going on with Arman right now and what he deserves and what he doesn't deserve. And I think that, from some of the news that he's been giving to some of the MMA media, he was offered 2 fights. One against Mateusz Gamrot, a rematch from an extremely close 5-round fight that, honestly boosted Arman's stock to the point of why he's almost here today. Obviously, the Oliveira fight did that as well, but that was a huge fight on the trajectory of his career. Sorry if you hear my dog barking in the background. He's a good boy. We love Jackson in the war room. We love yeah. He actually watched the JDM Bilal fight with us. Quick shout out. But yeah, so personally, I think that Arman, I don't know. I want to say he deserves it, but if you did miss weight, especially by that much, and then kind of, put it behind an excuse of, I injured my back, so I couldn't even cut weight. It's like, you should have been if you knew your back was hurt and that was the reason you can't cut weight, you should have been on track to cut weight much sooner than what you were doing. I know a lot of fighters like to wait until the last week, and, that's kind of the standard practice of how it goes.
It's such a risky game.
It is a risky game. It's like, why, if you knew that was going to happen, you could have done that 2 weeks ago. You could have, eased yourself into it. So that didn't happen to you. However, I do think the Paddy fight is a good fight, but I want to see him fight Justin Gaethje. I think that Gaethje's on the way out, and the whole thing of him saying, I'm going to retire if you don't give me a title shot is, a little bit crazy. And I'm not saying he deserves it because of the statements that he's made. I'm saying that, when you kind of see what Paddy's done and what Justin's done, Justin's already old enough that he's going to be done soon. And he's won 4 of his, he's won 3 of his last 4. That one loss was to Max Holloway for the BMF title at UFC 300. He beat Rafael Fiziev twice, and then beat, I'm blanking. He beat Dustin Poirier. Sorry guys. It's been a long day. I had a long car ride to Maryland. But yeah, he beat Dustin Poirier, Rafael Fiziev twice. He lost a fight that, he didn't even need to take at UFC 300. He took it because he knew it was going to be a banger, and quote unquote, this is what he said. He said the UFC came knocking down his door and begging him to take this fight. However, that like you don't have to take it. I know we've had conversations about it. Srikar, they don't owe him anything because technically he could have said no. But I don't think he was going to pass up being on one of the biggest cards in history, the biggest card in UFC history. I just think that he's a little more deserving right now of Paddy, but it all boils down to star power, and Justin Gaethje is a star, but I think that the antics between Ilia and Paddy, almost like they're kind of boiling over right now. So if you really want a money fight, you do give the money fight. But I would honestly, I'm going to matchmake Ilia and Justin Gaethje just because of, how Gaethje's career is going and it's almost at its end. And I think that Paddy could get one more fight in. I think he'd get one more fight. He beat Tony Ferguson, an aging Tony Ferguson who was on his way out. He beat a King Green that was not, not nearly where he was at the top of his game. Like when he used to be, just boxing people up, piecing people up. And then he made quick work of Michael Chandler, which is very, very impressive. And if that's the reason that the UFC wants to give him a title shot, I can definitely see that. However, I would love to see Justin Gaethje just get one more shot. And, it's going to be sad because I really want to see him get over the hump, but Ilia's too good, man.
Yeah, I'm personally good off another. I mean, Gaethje just loses to all the top guys. Like it is what it is. Like, if you have the opportunity to maximize your money now,
right? Yeah,
you're going to do it. Like so I think they just do Topuria Paddy.
But do you want to risk Paddy losing and dropping his stock?
No, because as his stock would drop, Ilia's would rise monumentally.
But so it's almost like beefing up a cow before you send it to get slaughtered. It's like, don't you want him to almost be like the best and have the best resume? Paddy's on he'll be 24-3 if he wins his next fight versus Ilia, who's 18-0, 17-0.
It's a big thing only because they've been hyping up this fight for 3 years. Like, okay, yeah. If it's 3 years in the making, I'm sorry, Justin. I'm sorry, Arman. Like he's skipping the line. Like he's getting a title shot. Like, and if he already has star power, then are you really worried he's going to lose stock by losing in a title fight? It'd be different actually if he lost in a title eliminator against like a Gaethje or against like something else. But I think against a Topuria in a title fight, he wouldn't lose much stock by losing. He would build stock probably even further. He'd gain more fans. He would, I agree, do a good job selling this fight. Both of them would. I don't actually think he would lose much stock rather than if he lost in a title eliminator.
I definitely agree. Yeah, I could definitely see that because, I mean, look, I don't think many people, little to no people, are expecting, Paddy to actually go in there and take care of Topuria. I think it's a very big entertainment factor, and that's what the UFC is going to go off of because, I mean, who doesn't love a good trash-talking match? Who doesn't love a good press conference? That's some of the best, entertainment in the UFC, and that's how, honestly, some stars put their name on the map. Yeah. We've seen, obviously, Conor was a very talented fighter, is a very talented fighter, but that's kind of how he made his name. He was very calm, cool, and collected, and then he kind of got into the, like the real trash talking and just being disrespectful. But before that, it's, having funny interviews and saying things is just that gains people's attention and attracts people to want to watch your fight. It's almost like the UFC video games do it perfectly in career mode. It's like you go in and you have to build up the fight for the hype. They call it the hype in the career mode. It's like going and doing interviews, going to signing events, things like that. Just being there for the fans and giving them an entertainment factor in your fight definitely attracts people to it. And like, yeah, I could definitely see what you're saying because, Paddy, Ilia, that's been boiling up for a while. Ilia's saying, blah, 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 shut up, whatever. And then Paddy's just saying, you whatever Paddy says. And it's funny because actually, I believe I think it was John Anik. He said that Paddy is one of the best trash talkers, if not the best trash talker in the UFC because he doesn't go, he just goes off the cuff. Like Chael Sonnen, love Chael Sonnen, one of my favorite people to ever touch a mic. But he scripted things, and you could tell he scripted things, and he was still very good at delivering it. But yeah, what Paddy says is he kind of just wings it out there. Yeah, it's just like that's him.
100%, and I feel like his Liverpool personality, like all of that factors in. But this actually leads us to our title eliminator. So if you have Gaethje versus Ilia, I'm assuming you have Arman versus Paddy. as your title eliminator. And mine is going to be Arman versus Gaethje. I think this is just the perfect title eliminator. Arman actually got offered Gaethje before at UFC 315, but he declined.
It was short notice though.
Short notice. He wasn't willing to take it.
Yeah.
And Arman's made it clear now that he's not afraid to take another fight instead of waiting around. So I think this could work for him. It's a favorable matchup for Arman. I think Arman would actually win this fight, and he would cement his title shot. For Gaethje, I mean, he's trying to strong arm the UFC into a title shot. But look, if you put an ultimatum against the company you're working for, it's not going to work. Like, I'm just talking in general. Don't do that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 100%. And Dana's not the guy to give an ultimatum to. He's the one who gives you the ultimatum.
And if Gaethje somehow beats Arman, like, he's fighting for gold, like, very easily. And I think that'll be one of the more impressive wins on Justin Gaethje's. I think that'd be the most impressive win Justin Gaethje's ever got if he beats Arman. So right up there next to Tony Ferguson. Because what he did to Tony Ferguson at that point in Tony's career was, I think Arman is more skilled than Tony.
Yes, definitely. I'm just saying that because Tony was on the 12th.
It was a prime Tony.
12 fight win streak Tony, and beat the brakes off him. So, I mean, we're both on the same track. We just kind of mixed and matched it. All right. So, let's get into a little bit more. What we got on the deck, Srikar?
Okay, let's go to one we're both going to agree with. I think if Max Holloway holds on to that BMF belt and sends Dustin into retirement the way I think he will, I think it's going to be Charles Oliveira versus Max Holloway for the BMF belt. I think a rematch with DuBronx just makes sense. Honestly, I would do it in Brazil. I would give Oliveira that kind of, I guess, kind of the favorable crowd.
Home court advantage.
Just give him that energy, man. I think that could definitely either headline or co-main a pay-per-view in Brazil.
Oh, definitely.
Charles and Max just rematching it. We're due, man. So an easy one right there.
You said it perfectly. I definitely agree with you. And when they do go to Brazil, it could be a main, could be a co-main. You could have Pantoja on that card with Josh Van. Never know.
Maybe.
We'll see.
I think Kalen Nunes could be on that card, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, and also the UFC is not shy about doing, three title cards or, just like absolute super cards, especially in Brazil. They have a ton of Brazilian fighters. That's one of their big hubs for MMA in the world. And I think the UFC loves to put on a good show for them. But yeah, I definitely think that no matter what happens to Max, win or lose to Dustin, I think that he should fight Oliveira.
All right, so we got Ilia versus Paddy or Gaethje. We have whoever's basically left out in a title eliminator. Oliveira versus Max for the BMF belt. Strong there. Let's get funky here. I'm gonna throw out a guaranteed fight of the night to you for Dan Hooker.
I love Dan Hooker, the Hangman, bro.
The Dan Hangman Hooker. I think he is going to fight Rafael Fiziev. I think that is a guaranteed fight of the night. These are two guys who they never step backwards. They only step forward. They're both kind of trying to claw their way into the top 5. And the reason I'm having Fiziev fight up like this is because he's just kind of fought into the top 3 almost with Gaethje.
Right.
So if you want to keep him progressing on a steady roll, I say he fights kind of into the top 5, top 6. So yeah, I'd go Fiziev and Hooker. I mean, this is just pure chaos, man. Like, this is a chaotic fight. And we love chaos in the war room. So I think Hooker and Fiziev, again, guaranteed fight of the night. It would be fireworks throughout. And I want to see that on a pay-per-view, man. I think it would be a great fight for pay-per-view.
100%. Yeah. Dan Hooker's a pay-per-view fighter. He all he does is just absolute war and mayhem when he steps in the ring. Hopefully he's progressing well in his rehab, and we in the war room, we hope he's doing okay after that broken foot that put him out of that Gaethje fight. But yeah, I can see that one. I don't know. After what Paddy did to Chandler, I feel like a Chandler Hooker fight also excites me just because.
But they've already fought.
I know, just again, because I think that it would go a lot differently this time, because Chandler at that point in his career was, I thought he was going to be the next lightweight champion. And he was 5 seconds away from being the lightweight champion, and Oliveira survived this. He weathered the storm, comes back out, boom, it's over. But no, you know what? I think that I forgot who I matchmake the BSD with, but I really want to see Dan Hooker versus Benoit Saint-Denis.
Okay.
I think that could be absolute mayhem, and that's setting me up for kind of the next one down the list. So we're talking about Fiziev. I really want to see a matchup of a rematch between Mateusz Gamrot and Rafael Fiziev, just because of the way that ended with the injury to Fiziev. You know, it was a good fight for the first round, and then you never like to see a fight end like that. And I think that Fiziev could get his shot at redemption. It would boost him up the rankings, and it'll kind of put Dan Hooker in a spot. Like if he fights BSD, look, Dustin's dropping out of the rankings regardless of if he beats Max or not. So that's one spot that's like a filler spot. So Hooker can go up in the rankings, or, you know, someone at the bottom can kind of push their way up, take that spot. We don't know. But I think in terms of the rankings, I think BSD versus Hooker would be a very good fight, because when we're looking at the top 4, it's obviously they have Islam in it, obviously, but he's a welterweight for right now in our head. We're not considering him in this title picture, because he will get the title shot eventually. We have Oliveira, who just lost. We matchmaked him with Holloway. Poirier sitting at 6. He's gonna fall out. So Dan Hooker would automatically be 6 as soon as as soon as UFC 318 is over with. I think that, you know, BSD sitting at 14, he was so close to, you know, cracking that top 7 upper echelon in the lightweight division before Poirier shut his lights out. And Poirier, you know, he was surging back up because he wanted that title shot. He got the title shot against Makhachev. I think that could be a very interesting fight, and kind of it'll definitely put Saint-Denis back on track of where he wants to be. And like I said, it'll give Fiziev that kind of, you know, redemption against Gamrot for a very, you know, unfortunate result. But now I'll propose this question to you. Who do you see Gamrot fighting?
It's so funny because we literally just flip-flopped. I have Gamrot fighting BSD. Like, I think
our minds are working in the same way, just like in opposite directions.
Well, I think the thing is, we look at BSD and say, yes, he was getting fast-tracked until the Poirier fight, but then after that, he got brutalized by Moicano.
Yeah,
absolutely, he did. Brutalized. And then he beats Kyle Prepolek, which is like, and even Prepolek was kind of hanging in there. I think Saint-Denis only finished him in the second round. I don't think he should be jumping straight into that like top 5 region just yet.
Okay.
Which is why I think Gamrot makes sense, because UFC Paris actually needs a big fight. And I think this is it, man. Like, Gamrot versus BSD is your co-main. Like, I think makes a lot of sense. Saint-Denis needs it. Gamrot, I think Gamrot as a stylistic matchup for Benoit Saint-Denis, you know, super scrambling heavy. I think that's really going to test BSD in ways that we haven't seen yet. And I really want to see that, because that's going to be kind of the litmus test for how good BSD truly is.
Right.
If he finds problems with Gamrot and the constant takedown attempts and the wrestling, like, he's going to struggle, man. Like, he's going to struggle against anyone upper echelon. So I think this is a good litmus test for BSD, especially in front of his home crowd again. I think it makes a lot of sense timing-wise. So, yeah, I'd go Gamrot BSD and then Hooker Fiziev, which brings us to Beneil Dariush.
I know. What do we do with Benny, man? I'm a little stumped on this one.
You're gonna hate me, man. But if Dariush is genuine, I mentioned this before in our 317 recap. If Dariush is serious about fighting anyone, anywhere, anytime, you know what? Let's see it. Give me Beneil Dariush versus Fares Ziam.
Oh, no.
I think he's fighting an unranked killer, man. Like,
I mean, Fares is on a crazy streak.
Put this on the Paris card as well. Just stack the Paris card. Ziam would get a massive step up in front of his home crowd. Really a make or break fight for both guys, if we really think about it. For Dariush, again, man, you should have made a specific call out. If you just say anywhere, anytime, we're gonna give you a killer. And Fares Ziam is a killer. He he's on the literally the cusp of the rankings. He's been waiting to fight up into it, and I think this is the fight for him. And doing it in Paris again, I think is a really, really good opportunity for him. So I think that's the way I'm looking. I think Dariush is going to fight out of the he's gonna fight in the unranked pool. That is because I can't have him fight up. Like,
right.
I know Sam was mentioning Dariush versus Hooker potentially. I don't want to see that. Like,
no, I don't.
I want to see him against a young guy. I know someone in our comments said Dariush versus Hoofy could be good. Man, I'm down, man. Like Hoofy's a beast. I want to see
is a beast.
I want to see him against a young guy. I think that's the biggest thing, and he should fight down into the unranked pool to do that.
I actually very much agree with that. Yeah, because far as Ziam he is silently just putting people out and just winning fights that he should win, and in dominant ways. I think that it's like you said, it sometimes you have to you have to push your own agenda and set your own narrative, right. And that can be a double-edged sword, because Gaethje is doing the same thing, but he's doing it way more aggressively than what Beneil should be doing. Beneil should be like, hey, you know what? Look, I'm almost at the tail end of my career. I want to have fights that will get me closer to the title. Not necessarily calling for the title, not necessarily calling for a top 3 or 4 guy. But yeah, and if you say I'm going to fight you anytime, anywhere, the UFC is not scared to do that to you. The smile killer, man. Fares Ziam, he's good. And especially it'll match up perfectly with that Paris card, like you said.
Yeah, the timing works. I think everything's there. We've mentioned a lot of lightweight fights for that Paris card. We have Gamrot BSD, we have Dariush and Ziam. Is there anything else? I mean, BSD is going to be on it anyway.
Yeah, BSD will 100% be on it. I don't know. No, I
think it's just those two.
I think that's perfect.
Yeah.
It really is perfect.
Okay. The guy Dariush just beat, Renato Moicano. Money Moicano. This one is actually a lot trickier, because I honestly think Moicano should also be fighting in the unranked pool. And the fight that I'm looking at for that, first of all, shout out to the Tatsuro Taira Amir Albazi card on August.
Yes.
That is a really stacked card for an Apex.
It's going to be good.
So I would tune in. That's going to be violence throughout the whole event, and should be a fun one. But one fight on that card, Chris Duncan versus Mateusz Rebecki.
Yes.
I think the winner of that should fight Renato Moicano for a ranked spot. Moicano's always entertaining, obviously, and either of these guys would just make for a fun stylistic clash. Chris Duncan coming off submissions of Balaji Oki and who was it? Balaji Oki and Jordan Bucenic. And Mateusz Rebecki had a war with Muktabek Oralbai.
Yeah.
I mean, gosh. This would be a firefight. Like, this would be awesome. And I think in these situations, if it's Chris Duncan, I want to see Chris Duncan versus Moicano on the ground. And then with Becky, I mean, it could go anywhere, and I think it would be fun. So I think Renato Moicano should be fighting in that unranked pool. Keep a close eye on that fight, because I think the winner of Duncan and Rebecki could be fighting up into the rankings.
I definitely agree. I was thinking, this one was a little bit hard for me just because of where, people sit in the rankings and outside the rankings. Because there are fighters that, it's like you said, you don't want to have a 13 or Moicano was 10 right now, so he'll drop a few spots. But you don't want to have you don't want to have like an 11 fight a 14 or like whatever. That I feel like 15,
those are pointless, man.
Exactly.
Don't get 15, you anywhere.
15 through I would say 11 is kind of like those fighters should be fighting unranked fighters, unless the fight that you're gonna make in that is a crazy banger and it just makes complete sense. I was thinking Moicano. I think he should fight Bahamondes. I think Bahamondes should, he had a very lackluster performance against Fiziev, but that was in Fiziev's home country of Azerbaijan. So he had a very spirited performance, and maybe that had something to do with it. But, Fiziev, he's getting back on track, and he was already a top 10 lightweight fighter before his injury. So that was kind of just like a get right fight for him. But Ignacio Bahamondes is still one of the best lightweights in the world. He honestly should be ranked, whether it's 15, 14, 13. I think that, Moicano is going to fall down, but I think that Bahamondes does deserve another ranked shot just because of his talent. And, he's so young. He's an exciting fighter. Moicano's an exciting fighter. And we saw Bahamondes get his first submission against Jalen Turner. So we know he has a little bit of ground game, but we know he's a great striker. Moicano can do everything. I think that would be also a firefight. But I really like I like the winner of Matador Becky.
Yeah, I was about to say Bahamondes would have actually been my second pick. I think that's a great fight. But that's only if you want Bahamondes fighting back into the rankings instead of against another unranked guy.
Yes. And obviously the UFC they'll weigh their options with that because Bahamondes is a very interesting fighter. Another fight I was thinking about, but I want to see Rufi fight. I want to see Rufi fight into the rankings. So I'll give another prediction on it. But dude, what if Bahamondes fought Rufi?
Yeah, that would be crazy.
That would be actually. I'd actually be so excited for that fight. I couldn't even put into words how excited I would be to watch that.
For what it's worth, I think Rufi would win, but
yes,
that would be an insane fight. And speaking of Rufi, Michael Chandler's next up.
I was just gonna say that.
Well, this fight's already been rumored. I think this is a simple one. You do Michael Chandler versus Mauricio Rufi. Chandler's, obviously in that kind of weird, fun fights only phase of his career.
Yeah.
This would be
he's a dog. He'll take anything too.
Yeah, this is a fun fight, man. Rufi's young, he's dangerous.
Yes.
Rufi needs a big name. There's your big name, man. Michael Chandler would be the name. I think this is a perfect fight. And this should happen sometime soon. I think this should happen either in the fall or maybe you could sneak it onto UFC 319, potentially in Chicago. Whatever works, man, make this fight happen. Michael Chandler versus Mauricio Rufi. A good chance for a fighting nerd to break into the rankings, or Michael Chandler can get off the schneid here, show that he's still kind of deserving of being ranked in this division and being taken seriously. I think it's a great fight for both. I wouldn't say a make or break for both because for Rufi, he's got time. But Chandler, it's definitely a make or break. I definitely want to see this happen. I think it'll be really fun.
Definitely. And Chandler's one of the most exciting fighters in the UFC. He goes out there, kill or be killed fighter. Absolutely, he lives for the entertainment, and he does a very good job of it. I don't know if I'm not sure if they could put him on the 319 card. That would be awesome because I'd love to see Rufi fight as soon as possible. I was thinking, it's funny because I feel like both of these guys tend to fight. Well, not tend to fight, but Rufi did fight at MSG, and the MSG card tends to be in November, and Chandler's fought at MSG multiple times now in the UFC. So that could be that could be a money grab fight. Just get people in the door. I don't know. I would put that on the main card 100%. I was going to say featured prelim, but no, that's too good of a fight to do that.
Yeah, it's got to be main card.
But that would be a very good first fight of the night at MSG. Get the card rocking.
Low key, you may not agree with me. It could be a fight night headliner if you wanted it to be.
Could be. There's enough star power in there, and it's going to be a guaranteed finish.
Into a 5-round fight. So
yeah. It's good. And then, we've seen Chandler go 5 rounds. We know he can do that. Whether he's going to win or not, that's another question. But we know he has 5-round cardio. We've never really seen Rufi tested like that because he kind of just goes in there and he lives up to his name. He's one shot.
Right.
He needs one shot and it's over. But yeah, honestly, I would not be mad at a 5-round main event. But don't do that in the Apex, please. That's not an Apex fight.
No, they're not putting a guy like Michael Chandler in the Apex.
Yeah, that's not an Apex fight.
He could fight in the Apex, but they won't do that to Michael Chandler.
Honestly, right now, the way Rufi's been knocking people out,
I don't want it. The fact that they're putting, they're stacking the Apex cards now.
They are. Hey, hey, you know what? Maybe Srikar, maybe you got to go back to Las Vegas. I'll fly out there and we can go to an Apex card because I want to see how the Apex works.
I'm with it. August 2nd. Let's try and make our way out there.
Yeah. I end work August 1st.
We'll see, but we got one more minute here. We've done BSD.
Yep.
Last one on the list is Grant Dawson.
Okay.
I think there's one guy we haven't named that is, again, right on the cusp of the rankings. I want to see Grant Dawson versus Nasrat Haqparast. I think.
Ooh, okay.
It's a little under the radar. It's not the flashiest matchup, but I think this is a solid fight. Both guys are just kind of hungry to crack that upper tier. And this could set one of them up for that. Like, if we look at Nasrat, I think he's won his last 5 fights.
Yes, he has.
So he's on a
4 decisions, 1 TKO.
He just beat Esteban Ribovic by split decision.
Which, Esteban is a dog, man. He's insane.
And some people might swing the other way. We don't know for sure, but he got the win. That's what matters.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know who else Dawson should fight. Like, I think this would make a lot of sense. King Green and Carlos Diego Ferreira is kind of like off the
right.
Whoever wins, it won't matter because Bobby Green's already knocked out Grant Dawson. We don't need to see it again.
Right.
Yeah, I think it has to be Nasrat, man. Is there anyone you're thinking of? Like,
so I would. It's kind of annoying because I wish that the timeline was a little bit better. Actually, let me just double check the last time that Grant Dawson fought just to see what type of timelines he's on. He fought this year. I know he fought this year. He fought in. He fought in January. So he's due for a fight soon, and he likes to stay pretty active. He's been fighting, every 6 or so months, every oh my God, let's see quick math. No, yeah, I mean, every 4 to 5 months. So yeah, I could see that. Just because of timeline purposes, and Nasrat he's reaching that point of being undeniable for a rank shot. And I do like that. If the timelines ended up better, though, I would have loved to see him fight the winner of Chase Hooper versus Anthony Hernandez.
Oh, I think that could be a good one.
I think that would be a great fight. They're fighting August 2nd, actually. On the card?
If Chase Hooper wins, he's going to the rankings. Like, he's going to get the rank shots. So makes
definitely,
sense.
Yeah. Chase Hooper's been on a very dominant couple of fights in his past 2 years. Yeah, but so they're fighting August 16th, actually at UFC 319. Sadly, I think that Grant would want to, get in the octagon sooner than that. And you laid it out perfectly. Nasrat, he fought in March in a split decision. Grant fought in January, so that really would line up perfectly. But like stylistically, I love Anthony Hernandez, and I think he's very good, and he will find his way back into the rankings. But Chase Hooper, man, he is so good.
He's a beast.
He is, he just goes out there, and Grant Dawson's a great grappler as well. And I know you want to put a striker versus a grappler, and styles make fights, but that would be one of the most technically interesting fights in the UFC if you put Chase Hooper against Grant Dawson. But I think Nasrat would work out better, and I'm going to agree with you, Srikar, that Nasrat Haqparast deserves a shot to get in the top 15.
Well, that caps off our kind of entire top 15 lightweight rankings, starting at the top with Ilia Topuria, going all the way down to Grant Dawson. This is what we do, man. This is what we do. We love matchmaking in the war room. Let us know if you enjoyed this style of video or podcast, because we enjoy doing this. We do it for a reason. Any final thoughts before we peace out of the video?
Dude, I'm going to keep saying it, but, watching UFC for the past, it's coming up on 10 years for me. I'm feeling washed as hell. But, yeah, this is the best spot the UFC has ever been in. And obviously, just like any sport, evolution is key. There's sports and, fighters and athletes are constantly evolving. But the skill of these fighters, man, just even outside of the top 15, when you kind of evaluate the whole of just every division, just picking unranked fighters, there are unranked fighters that would have been beating top 10 guys easily from 10 years ago. Yeah. And it's just so crazy to think about. And it's no slight to anyone who fought in the UFC back then and is still fighting today. But it just goes to show that, when you see those guys at the top winning championships and just the things that they can do, it's like healthy competition. You see them getting better, so you want to get better yourself. And when you have someone like Ilia Topuria that has, from what we've seen, nearly no holes in his game, Islam Makhachev as well, really no holes in his game. It breeds excellence within the rest of the sport, and I'm just so excited to see what's coming. Honestly, I think that this will be a top 3 year ever for UFC. I think last year was amazing, but this could actually be one of if not the best year in the UFC.
Especially if it heats up down the stretch, you're really talking. But You said it perfect, man. Like, this is a great time to be a UFC fan. So many talented fighters, especially in that lightweight division we just broke down. We try to cover every single guy that we can. I know we
100%.
obviously missed out on some. So comment any fighters you want us to talk about.
Socials below.
All the socials, yep, down below. You can catch us on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, as well as on the tube right here. And yeah, we want to thank you again for coming into the War Room with us. We will see you real soon. There's no UFC event coming up this weekend, but we're going to have you covered on UFC Nashville, Derek Lewis versus Taliesin Teixeira. We're really excited for that card. Should be a fun one. So again, thank you for stopping by in the War Room alongside Chris Shroyer. I'm Srikar Rajendran. We'll see you guys real soon.